Drummers I Like podcast, episode number 3. What's up, everybody? It's the Drummers I Like podcast. This is episode number 3. Coming to you out of the state of California in sunny Los Angeles. It's Richard. I'm hanging out with Kevin. He's over in Florida in the awesome city of Vero Beach. What's up, Kevin?
What's going on, Richard? What's going on, everybody?
Nothing much, man. Hanging out, relaxing in the office. Really excited about tonight's episode. You know, we've really been anticipating talking a little bit about ourselves and our backgrounds, where we come from, how we made it to the world of drums, music in general, really. Kevin and I, as you know, are drummers, and we've been playing, me a little over, 12 or 13 years now. Kevin, how long have you been playing?
I've been playing for quite a while now. I think I got my first kit when I was about 10, about third grade kind of right around there, third, fourth grade.
Jeez, man. Yeah, like when I met you, you had already been playing for so long. I just thought you were like this drum god or drum guru. So I was like, oh man, he's been playing since he's like a little kid. He's got chops. He's got it all. I just always thought you were an awesome drummer. Just had a side note that. But, we are really excited about today's episode because you can get to know us a little bit better. So without further ado, I am going to go ahead and pass the mic to my buddy Kevin here and kind of let him give you a good breakdown of himself, who he is, and why he plays drums. Kevin, what's up, man?
What's going on? Appreciate the lead in there, Richard. For everybody who doesn't know, my full name is Kevin Charlelli. Nice long Italian name that's really easy to mispronounce, especially when you see it spelled. And so me and drumming, it's been a long love affair. I was pretty fortunate. I come from a pretty musical family. My father is a bass player. My uncle on my mom's side was a drummer. So both of them were involved and into music. So that's kind of how it all started for me from a really young age. My dad always had something playing either on the record player or when CDs kind of started getting popular. He bought a CD player pretty early on, and there was always some kind of music. It was pretty much his routine, and we'd be eating dinner, and he would throw on music, and he's got a lot of roots in rock, but he has a lot of influences, all around. He's done the blues thing. He likes some fusion jazz. He's not too big into the real traditional or bop jazz or swing jazz or anything kind of like that. He's not too much of a jazzer, but he's definitely has the rock roots. So it was a lot of rock based stuff. He was also into Weather Report. So like I said, he got kind of fusion-y too. So I had a lot of early influences and was listening to a lot of that stuff at a really young age, and I showed an interest in drums really young. My dad had the two drummers that I always credit as pretty much bringing me to the drum set. My dad had 2 VHS tapes that I would watch constantly when I was really young, and one of them was Asia in Asia. They recorded it on MTV years ago, and for those of you who don't know who Asia was, it was kind of a really weird idea they had back then, where they were going to take all these really good prog musicians and throw them into a pop band. So it was kind of a little weird, but it was good. They did make good music. It was just, I'm sure everybody's heard a few of their tunes. And Carl Palmer was the drummer, and seeing his massive drum set with the gongs in the back and that really, I was all about that. And he also had a VHS tape of the Who farewell concert that they did. I think it was in Canada in like 85, somewhere in that mid-80s range. And he had a VHS tape of that too. And by that time, Keith Moon was gone, but it was Kenny Jones that was playing drums for them through that tour. And also just big, bombastic drum set, and them going and playing all those classic Who tunes, and being able to watch those guys perform. It just really, I just would watch the drummer any chance I could get, and I was really into that. So that's kind of what got me started, and that's when I would line the top of the couch with the Tupperware or whatever and the wooden spoons and just kind of run back and forth on the couch beating on everything. And it's kind of how that kind of all started snowballing. And like I said, I got my first drum set when I was about 10 years old. I think by that time my dad knew, okay, he still really wants to do this and he's into it, and he's kind of the age now where he can kind of get into it a little bit more, even though, I probably could have started younger, but we all have our cards that were dealt. So
Yes,
I got the
sir.
drum set right around there, and from there I took formal lessons and started kind of learning those really basics. Sitting just there with a snare drum with my instructor at the time, a gentleman who's now passed away, Mike Clementi was his name. And we would just sit there, and he kind of brought me through some of the real basics. And then for a while there, when I started getting a little bit older in elementary school and in middle school, I got into band when I hit middle school. But for some reason, since I already had known how to play the drums and done that whole sort of thing, and kind of had that as my hobby, I said, well, why don't I learn how to play more of a melodic instrument, when I go into band? So I played alto sax for a year and realized pretty quick that that wasn't really quite right for me. And then I played trombone all through most of middle school and high school. So, like I said, didn't play drums. I kind of kick myself now for it, as I think I've mentioned on our Sam podcast. I kind of touch on that a little bit, but from there, I just kind of focused more on that stuff and didn't kind of do a lot of drumming stuff then. And then after high school, I kind of just was reinvigorated on the drums and started really just playing a lot in my room, just practicing a lot. And then I got into my first band that was regularly kind of gigging, and that was a thrash metal band, and that was a lot of fun. And from there, I've kind of moved in and out of a few different bands, always kind of in the heavy subgenres. I played thrash and kind of a metalcore, hardcore band for quite a while. I was in, and I did a cover band that played locally, did a lot of bar stuff, and I used to just tell everybody played rock for the last 50 years, and from there I got involved in my current project, which I'm working on with some guys that I've known for quite a while, and so that's all starting to take off. It's starting to book shows, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's tons of room for improvement in my playing, but I feel like I've got a pretty good solid foundation. I'm doing it long enough to be able to hold my own, but it's tough out there. There's a lot of great drummers out there, and they got a lot of great chops. So, but that's enough about me. How about you, Richard? How did you kind of come into this whole drumming thing?
Well, pause, because you left out one really important thing, and he's got this awesome latest project going on, but these guys that he's been playing with since I got into music, which I'll get into when I talk about myself. But this band, Every 9 Seconds, was this influential hardcore band in our hometown, Vero Beach, which is how me and Kevin know each other. We're from the same hometown, and they were a huge influence, not on anyone that wanted to play metal in the local scene, but on my band. My band didn't have any access to shows, anything like that, and we just got lucky enough to plop ourselves in a storage unit down by him, and we became friends with his band, and they helped me and my band get really far, which I'll get into that some more. I don't mean to dive in too quick, but just to mention, man, Kevin, you've been playing drums for a long time in the area, and you've just made a lot of impact on a lot of drummers, and can't leave that one out, buddy. But yeah, let me go ahead.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Richard. I really do.
Of course.
And I think we all remember those warehouse days. Richard's band back then was called Sequencing the Sentence.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the band, and I can remember now. Richard has also come a very long way in drumming, and I think when you were at school at Full Sail, Richard went to school at Full Sail in Orlando, Florida. That's where he did his college. And when he had moved away, he was getting a chance to play a lot of drums kind of on his own, and he was doing some filming off of a phone. I mean, this is long before everybody was filming everything and putting it up. And I remember one day him putting up just him jamming, just having fun behind the kit. Had some free time between classes or something. And I can remember watching that video, and I can remember the sounds that would come out of your warehouse when you were with Sequence and Sentence and you just kind of started drumming. And then I watching that video and hearing where you were, then and even now. And it's so funny because it's hard, I think, for you or for anybody really, personally to remember, kind of remember what they sounded like all those years ago.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I mean, it was just like I could see this like my God, if you could hear that compared to this and see how far it's come, it's unreal. So great job, Richard. You've come a long way too.
Well, thank you. It is nice to get a pat on the back, especially when, we all put in drummers put in hard work, man. Dedicated drummers really do. But, let me kind of get on myself here. So I didn't really grow up in a musical family. I know my grandpa was a masterclass piano player. He was in the Navy, and throughout his entire extent there, he was playing piano. And according to my grandma and my parents, he was literally one of those players that everyone got up to go see when they heard him playing. He was just an amazing player. He never really showed me anything. He ended up passing away before I really got a chance to learn a lot. And like I said, I just didn't get a lot of family teachers growing up. I had an uncle that played guitar, but I never really saw him. So my musical influence was really came strictly from the emotional ties I had towards it. Growing up, I skateboarded a lot, and when I skateboarded, I couldn't skate without music. There was just no way. And maybe 10, 11 years of strictly skateboarding to, artists and finding music that I really love, I ended up finding a drum set at a buddy's house in middle school, and I spent a lot of time there on the weekends. They'd all go skate, and I'd sit back and kind of dick around on the drum set. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had no teachers or anything like that, no music in front of me. I just was hitting stuff, and like a toddler would hit drums, like my 2-year-old hits drums. He's smashes around. I was pretty much doing the same thing sometime around 8th or 9th grade, just a toddler on the drum set. It was pretty funny. But after that, I think maybe 3 or 4 years went by. Almost all of high school, I didn't really touch drums again. And, I continued to skateboard, and all me and my buddies developed some serious musical preferences, started going to concerts, got into metal, got into Silverstein and Hawthorne Heights, kind of as post-hardcore kind of started to surface on the radio. We started hearing these bands, and our curiosity led us into heavier metal and technical metal and death metal and blah, 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 blah. So metal was a huge influence to me, along with a couple other genres, but mostly metal. And, after high school, my best friend Sam picked the guitar up and just started jamming around, learning Killswitch Engage songs and, more mainstream metal stuff, but pretty cool stuff that, we were all skateboarders that listened to music we never really imagined that we could play. And, maybe after 3 or 4 months of Sam having this guitar, I decided that I was going to go and figure out how to get a drum set. And one of my really good buddies that I skated with just said, hey, man, you take my drum set for a couple months. And, I got this really sweet Sonar kit. I think you remember that kit, right, Kevin?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the old Sonar Force 2005 or something like that. One of those, I can't remember the actual proper nomenclature, but I do remember that drum set.
Yeah, that thing was sweet. I had that for a long time, probably a year, and maybe after 7 or 8 months, he was banging down my door, hitting my phone up 24/7. Yo, dude, let me get my kit back. Let me get the kit back. And I was kind of an asshole and not giving him the kit back. It wasn't because I wanted to be. It was just I was broke as hell, and I could not afford to go out and buy a whole drum set, let alone cymbals, a seat, a pedal. Drummers, how expensive it gets. And, I kind of pushed it off for maybe 3 or 4 months. And eventually I was like, all right, dude, come get your kit. I had this really cool friend of mine named Charles that he played drums, but, he had unfortunate circumstances. He couldn't play anymore. So he was selling his Ludwig kit, like one of those really cheap. They're literally $300. You can go buy it, and it comes with everything you need. I don't think it comes with cymbals, but it comes with a seat, a pedal, and all that. Well, he gave me the seat, a pedal, some cheap cymbals, just like something to get me on my feet. And I didn't care. I wanted it, so I got it. Put some nice new heads on it. Got some advice from friends on some tuning, and just made it as best as I could. And that was like the kit that I had. You remember that one?
I do. I think that kit still exists.
It does. Our buddy Nick, I think our friend Nick still has remnants of it sitting around on his current set. I remember that 10-inch snare I gave him with it, too. He had that for ages.
Yeah, he's using a different snare these days, but all the shells are still the same.
Oh, my God.
He's removed. Yeah, I think they were covered originally, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
They had like a wrap.
A black wrap.
Yeah, he took the wrap off and sanded them and refinished them, but it is still the same kit.
Yeah, so that kit pretty much got me through my first band. After I had that Sonar kit, of course, me and Sam practiced together as long as we could every day, all the time. That was like our main focus. Push came to shove, we got one of those little garage units. That's kind of how I met Kevin. Our garage unit was like right down, 4 garage units down from his, and we just tried to write music, and through the trials and tribulations of a bunch of kids who don't know a thing about playing. We had no background. I'm talking all we knew were the songs we heard and covering our favorite artists. We just dove right in. I think we made it pretty far. We played with our makeshift instruments for so long and eventually upgraded and upgraded and upgraded and you know, kind of graduated the band scene, went to college and started playing on my own and started focusing on, myself and, my personal playing, not so much trying to learn what everybody else was doing, but trying to learn kind of what I liked and, how I could use it in my everyday playing. And of course, I really wanted to play in a band. That was like one of the driving forces behind drums. I just loved playing with with other musicians, and I loved metal and progressive so much that I was like, I want to play it. I'm always playing it in the garage. To be sweet to write my own stuff. So, you meet musicians. I met some pretty cool guys. One of my best friends to this day. Still jam with them all the time. We started a little metal band that was along the lines of the Periphery and Veil Mayas and stuff. But this was like 2009. So kind of before the big rush of, the do-it-yourself. Literally everybody can make this music out of their house. It's really awesome. But before when we were doing it, it was just like a nothing. But, we played some music. I played through college, and to this day, I'm just kind of working on my own playing. I don't play with any artists right now, but I do play with my friend that I play with in college, Tom. He lives out here in Los Angeles, so we do jam a lot. We jam once every couple weeks, and as I've mentioned before, I'm married and I do have a son who's about to turn 2 in June on the 13th. He was born on Friday the 13th, by the way, which is sweet. Yeah, little metal son. But he's my focus right now. More than ever, I'm an educator than I am, a student. Not to say that I don't spend time learning and practicing every day. I do, but if you are a parent out there, you probably know how hard it is in those first couple years to start finding time for yourself, let alone finding time to play an instrument like drums. So I found myself really making it my focus to get him in the room and playing the drums. And luckily through that, I think I've found the most effective practice, regimens for myself. I've learned the most. I've taken the most patience and focus to work on my own playing. And, it's probably been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And, to this day, just like Kevin, I think I'm just focusing on being a better player. Unfortunately, like I said, no gigs. I would love to play some gigs, but a little bit harder with my schedule and my business. But, we're part of the reason why we really do Drummers I Like and why we put together this podcast, the blog, the website, is because, we really want to stay as involved in the industry and in music alone as possible. And this is a great way to make time to do it, as well as share, our experiences and everything we love with the community. So, that's really about it for me, I can't really say anything else about my journey to drums, but, I am here now. I still love metal. I still play it every day, but, more than ever, I'm focusing on just playing drums and making music on the drums. Now that we've, kind of explained a lot about ourselves, we're going to talk about our week, talk about the few things we've been doing over the last few days. I know Kevin spent some time out with the Contortionist in Tampa last week. I know he wants to talk about that. So, Kevin, let us know how that went.
Yeah, it was a great time. We were very fortunate. This is the second time we've had a chance to go and film Joey Baca, and he's an amazing drummer, as most of you guys that are into the Contortionist know. And if you're not into the Contortionist, go check him out because it's very enjoyable. But yeah, we me and you filmed them, and I think it was in Orlando. I guess it was around a year ago, somewhere around that. So it was good to touch base with Joey again. And he was more than happy to have us out to do some live filming. And the show was also with Entheos, which is Navene Koperweis's band, and also had a chance to see them when we went and filmed Sam with Veil of Maya, probably also a little more than a year ago when we went out and saw Sam. And so it was good to run into Navene again. We also saw him when he was doing his solo project, just the Navene K,
That was so
and
sweet.
electronic. Yeah, that was a pretty cool deal. And he was he was in support of Animals as Leaders that day. So we went out to film Matt Gartzka that trip. So that was our first contact with him. So it was good to run into him again. And got down to the venue, saw actually Navene while Joey was doing his sound check, and he was definitely interested in having me do some film on him too, since I was there and had the camera. We were able to set up, be able to hook a flash drive up to the board audio for Navene, and also to Joey's X32 setup for the Contortionist that they keep on stage. So we had a good solid plan for some great audio. The show was fantastic. Both drummers play extremely well, so it was fantastic to be able to stand there and kind of watch them do their thing and kind of analyze some of the stuff they do. When you're kind of that close and personal, you can kind of focus on some things and see if you can take some tricks of the trade, so to speak, from watching them play live. And it was really cool. Of course, all nights aren't without their hiccups. When the Contortionist was finished for the night, we believe the sound guy had come on to the stage to start, kind of breaking everything down from the show, and unplugged the X32 without ever powering down or turning off the recording going to the flash drive. So unfortunately, it corrupted all of my audio files from the night. So we've had to kind of resort to doing some different stuff with the videos, but there'll be plenty more chances to get that done. So we'll be working on that. But
there's some on our
yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah,
we got the 2 videos right now on Instagram of them, about a minute each, thanks to that new 1 minute rule.
That's a great rule. So yeah, we were definitely able to salvage some stuff. It was good to catch up with those guys. Both of them showed interest in coming onto the podcast, and I know we've had some requests to have Navene on as well. So hopefully, once he gets back, he was finishing up some of the last shows on tour, and then he was going to be heading back to California, and once he gets home and kind of settled, we'll try and touch base with him, and also Joey once he's had some time to kind of decompress from the tour they just finished, and yeah, it was a great night, and kind of some other things I wanted to talk about from the night were some gear related stuff. Navene is playing a 13-inch. I think it's the G Maple SLP snare by Tama.
That thing looks sweet.
Oh, not only does it look
so
sweet,
good.
when you are standing behind that thing, I mean, it is capable of completely tearing your head off your body. It is a great snare drum. I mean, especially for that heavy, real aggressive fast metal. It does such a good job cutting through the mix and really being able to hear it out there. And it was a great snare. It really caught my attention right off the bat. And he's got it tuned, he's got it cranked, it sounds like, and it definitely caught my attention.
You know what? I don't mean to cut you off, but
No.
It's funny because he's such a unique player, even the way he tunes his drums, the way he plays. But I just got to make reference. Remember that show, the shows that we filmed with him the first time that you brought it up before, but he had that club kit. You remember that?
Well, it's not so much a club kit. He's using an 18-inch bass drum, and I know he's created his own trigger setup within that bass drum. It's actually got an input jack that's kind of right on the top side, where the tom mounts would normally come out of the bass drum. There's a 1/4-inch plug-in, and then I think he's got either 3 or 4 little piezo pickups that he's kind of fixed to that head to create that trigger for that bass drum. So, a lot of the sound is coming from the triggers, and I can imagine he likes the 18-inch bass drum just for space-saving reasons. Also, when you're on tour and lugging it around, it's a lot easier to lug an 18 around than it is a 22, so that's got to be kind of nice, too.
I bet, yeah.
But another thing really on his kit that really stood out to me were he's using a couple of the Meinl, the Custom Classics Dark Crashes. He's got a 19, I think, on his right, kind of near his ride and just above his ride, and he's got an 18 to the left. And those two cymbals, man, they really caught my attention. I was very, very impressed by their sound, and they have an amazing cutting ability. And like I said, they caught my attention. He's got one of the extreme metal, the classics extreme metal or extreme ride I think they call it, with that giant bell on it. I mean, that thing is sweet too. But those two crash cymbals, they really stood out to me. I think Meinl did a great job, creating that line, and they're great sounding cymbals, no doubt.
Every time I've heard the cymbals from Meinl, I've just always been blown away. I mean, I think all the manufacturers have their own little tone and the things that really stand out about them. But I feel like Meinl just kind of came out of nowhere over the last few years, and now everywhere I go, every band I see, Meinl cymbals.
Yeah, they've really been hitting it hard, and they've got a great product. I mean, I could remember when they were just kind of a little tiny blip on the map. They were used to be kind of a part of Roland, or they were in bed with Roland at one time. And even looking back through some old Modern Drummer magazines, I still run into the ads that had the old name. And yeah, they've definitely really been pushing themselves and making some great products. And as you can see, there's a lot of drummers that are definitely very interested in what they're doing, and kind of bringing a new heavy hitter in the cymbal market to the forefront, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, man, it is. It's really exciting.
It is. It is. Getting kind of to Joey's kind of gear related stuff. He recently has moved over to Tama. He was a Pearl player for quite some time, and has recently made a jump, and he seems really happy about it. He was playing a beautiful set of Star Classic Bubingas, and they had like the black. It was like a black glitter finish, and it just they were stunning. They're stunning drums, and really really attention grabbing. And he is also using the SLP snare. I forget exactly which one it is. I think it's. I can't be for sure, so I'm not going to misquote it. Go check out Joey Baca and the Contortionist, and check out his gear, and you'll see it. But it's also a very nice snare. And kind of at the end of the night, when everything was winding down, I was kind of giving Joey a hand, kind of just breaking down his drum set and putting everything kind of in its cases. Just all of us drummers know how that is. It's always nice to have a helping hand. So another thing that really caught my attention on these new Star Classics were they have like a quick release system on the actual tom itself. So on the Starcast like suspension mount, just right near where you actually slide the drum onto the L bracket, there's a little switch. And basically what happens is when you first put the drum on there, you set your memory lock, which is done with a wing nut. And then from there on out, you just literally press this switch over, and it just fully releases the drum to just pull right off of the L rod. And it was really cool. I mean, it made it super super quick for him to just grab the toms off real quick and hand them to me, and didn't have to ever touch a wing nut. You just press a button, they come right off. So that was a really neat feature that really is nice and time saving for the gigging drummer who's trying to get things done and get everything packed away for the long trek to whatever the next city is, or for the trip home.
Or for my case, the lazy and forgetful drummer who always forgets where he put his drums last time and can't get comfy.
See, I've never had that problem. I've always been one of those guys that I like. Once I find that setup that I like, I don't want it to vary. So I start putting tape on things and marking things, and like, this is where this is, so that way I have that, that base sort of, so to speak. And I think for a touring drummer, somebody who's playing a lot of gigs, it's kind of vital because you want to have that same feel. I mean, anytime you sit at the kit, it's a lot of times it's just a mental thing, but it could be a big factor in how you play that night if you don't feel 100% comfortable. So yeah, that was a really neat feature that they've kind of built into these new line, this new what's the word? The new
Star Classics?
New version of the Star Classics. Some of the new changes they've made are pretty cool. And he also made it a point to kind of talk about how happy he is with the excuse me, the new redesign Iron Cobras. And I think they redid them in 2015, and they made some pretty neat changes. It does have a new beater I didn't have a lot of time to really kind of check out that beater, up close. I mean, I did see it and kind of saw it was different, but I don't know exactly kind of where they're going with that. But one thing that he stressed was, like previously on the Iron Cobras and on most drum pedals in general, one of the weak points is kind of that hinge at the heel plate that the foot that the actual pedal board rocks on, the pivot point that's at the heel.
Yep. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I had a set of DW 5000s that I had for years, and that broke
I remember
multiple times on me. Yeah, those hinges broke multiple times on me, and I mean, knock on wood, I have an Iron Cobra now. It's not the new 2015s, but luckily I haven't worn that spot out too bad. But they've redesigned that hinge where it's almost like totally sealed, and it seems to be a neat feature. And if it can save people from having to replace parts on their bass drum beaters on the regular, then it's a step in the right direction. So that was pretty cool too.
I have the Mapex Falcon Pros. And they have like a similar feature on there where it's like really nice and secured and has its own separate latch system. And it seems like a lot of the newer pedals coming out, they're starting to really answer the needs of like not only just drummers in general, but gigging drummers who are using these things like crazy.
No, absolutely, I agree. I mean, like I said, I was a DW pedal player I had my 5000s for about a decade, and they never let me down, but they definitely wore and tore. I mean, when you're unpacking them, packing them, throwing them here, throwing them there, they get worn. I mean, anything does. It doesn't matter what it is, but that's how it's intended to be used. So
Right. I've had a pair of Iron Cobras. I broke those multiple times, and out of those, a couple of those times that it broke, I got really lucky and got on the phone with like the manufacturer warranty phone number, and they actually replaced all the broken stuff, and I had a brand new pedal for like 2 or 3 years. Just it felt brand new. But after that, I was really into those Cobras, so I went and got the Speed Cobras. Remember those?
I do. I think I've only sat on a few kits that had the Speed Cobras, so I haven't. I can't really say if I have a preference to those over just the traditional Iron Cobra. I mean, for me, because I had played the DWs for so long, when I did jump over to the Iron Cobras, I don't know, there was just something about them, and I said, man, these pedals feel great, and I mean, I've just been completely happy with them since. I mean, when I first got them, I was playing in like a bar scene kind of cover band, so I wasn't exactly using the slave pedal quite as much, but still, I was blown away by those. And I've always been a Tama guy, but for some reason, I had never really owned a pair of Iron Cobras. So I mean, I'm very happy with mine.
I actually just think I love the name more than anything.
It has a cobra on him. I mean, what's better than that?
Bro, I got Cobras. What's up? I remember I just felt so cool when I first got my Iron Cobras.
Absolutely.
Yeah, those
But
speed. Go ahead.
oh, no, you go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say those Speed Cobras. They were my first dive into the longboard pedal, and I mean I broke the hell out of them. But all through college, I played all those speed metal songs and all that death metal because of those longboard pedals. I was able to just get this really cool flow where I was that kind of stuff. It was kind of mind blowing.
Yeah. My only experience with longboard kind of pedals like that, and that's probably why I haven't really, been dying to have the Speed Cobras. I ended up getting a set of Axis pedals years ago, and I could not stand them. I'm the kind of guy who I like having the solid heel plate. I don't like not having the heel plate there.
Yeah.
And when you have that longboard, you don't really have that heel plate.
You're right. Yeah.
And and some people say it's for fast double bass work, the longboards are the way to go. But you also have to kind of operate in your comfort level too. And
Right.
I definitely preferred the feel of having a solid heel plate there. I'm a heel up, bass drum technique guy for the most part. I'm playing heavy rock and stuff like that. So, having that solid feel when I drop my heel down was important to me. So, that's kind of what made me stray away from those, me personally. But I know for a lot of people, they love them. I mean, you hear some of the best metal drummers in the world, and they wouldn't trade their Axis pedals if you gave them $1 million. So they love them. So
I learned how to do the heel toe on my longboard pedal. Those heel toe double kicks, those do-do-do-doots.
oh
And
yeah,
when I moved over to the when I moved over to the Falcon pedal, I couldn't do them anymore. It took me probably like a year, really, of like focusing and starting to try to get it back down. And now I can do them better than ever because I've refined the technique on this pedal, and it actually, it works a little bit better for me. But if you're learning stuff like that, I think that's one of the advantages of that longboard pedal is they do have that. You can go fast, but with all that room, it gives you some time or some length or area, whatever the word would be, to really work on different feet technique that are essentially kind of hard to work on with your traditional pedal.
sure. And I think it's just like anything. Everybody's got their personal preference. If
Right.
It's all about that feel. I mean, you can watch guys like Steve Smith on a traditional, pedal setup, or with not a longboard basically. You can watch him, demonstrate his constant release bass drum technique, and he's getting those double hits, by how the technique that he's using and how he applies that force both back and off of his heel from the pedal. And for anybody who has not seen Steve Smith demonstrate the constant release bass drum technique, definitely check it out. I remember the first time I kind of delved into it, I sat there for a good couple days, just real slow, just, and it's not something that I pursued really heavily, but it is a really neat technique. And if you can get it down, you can do some pretty amazing things with your bass drum.
I'm going to have to look into that one.
Oh, definitely.
I'm going to have to look at that one. I don't know. I haven't seen that one yet.
No, it's really cool. It's really cool. If you do that, then you'll probably, for the rest of the night, you'll probably be sitting there at your bass drum pedal on your V drums, trying to get a flow for the constant release.
Oh, I would love to try to get a flow for the constant release.
Well, it's definitely a flow thing. Once you watch it, you'll understand. But
yeah,
it's
I will.
Definitely a flow thing.
You know what? And kind of get towards wrapping this up. What I do want to talk about, you're talking about working on certain things. I'm kind of curious. I know we both work on different stuff during the week, and we have our different practice regimens. But what have you been working on this last week?
I've really just been kind of focusing on my hands this week. I basically have, this week's been kind of tough. With going to Tampa over the last weekend, and then having my daughter after that. And I for those that don't know, I am a father as well. I have a 9-year-old daughter, Nadia. And, between playing dad and work and all that sort of stuff, it's been pretty tough this week. But when I do sit down, I've been mainly just working on the hands and what I've mainly paradiddle work. I've kind of been just running a little brief exercise where I'll start it with a double paradiddle. I'll play through kind of two times through the double paradiddle, 2 times through a single paradiddle, just regular paradiddle, and then a double paradiddle, kind of all in one, in one phrase, so to speak.
Yeah.
And just kind of focusing on that, just getting to me, it just seems like it's really helping that singles to doubles, just to building the facility on the hands. I wasn't one of those guys that really sat down and did a lot of rudimental work once I started playing with, jamming with buddies and jamming with friends. A lot of my practice time was jamming with other musicians and playing songs. So, I wasn't just sitting there and practicing flams and practicing, all those rudiments. So, kind of been focusing on that, just trying to improve hand technique and that sort of, that sort of thing. How about you? What have you been working on?
Man, it has been one of those weeks where work has kind of overtaken the time to practice, but I feel like I'm a functional drummer that tries to make practice out of anything. So if I'm driving, I'm tapping on the steering wheel, making a drum set out of that, or my right hand's holding the stick. Or if I'm, just hanging out on the couch or hanging out in bed, I'm tapping with my fingers. I'm just always trying to find a way to mentally practice in some way. But honestly, to me, hands. I mean, I've probably been working on my hands for the last 3 years straight, trying to get better at that more than anything. But This week,
That's a lifelong battle too, by the
right,
way.
right, right. This week, essentially, just working on doubles, the double strokes, and really trying to work on playing simple patterns that have a lot of atmosphere and space that allow me to focus on being more creative, but at the same time, kind of following, you know, uh, specific patterns. Really working on finding a way to use these rudiments and these simple patterns, these double strokes that I've really been working on. And one thing that I've been finding myself just sitting here doing is going, in this pattern exactly, kick, kick, a double on the kick, a double on the hat, and then a little quick double on the snare, whether it be two grace notes or two full stroke hits. I'm playing that pattern over and over again, and trying to make grooves out of those hits, and changing the phrasing up, changing the timing up, trying to lay snares down on different places, just goofing around till I find something that sounds good. And, not just doing it at, a specific speed, but really spending time building it up from, maybe 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 beat per minute, and, trying to really lock it in on that metronome. Those are really the things I've been focusing on, and, teaching my son to play too. He's we just got him a kit. We just got him his first little drum kit, a little Mendini kit.
I saw that. It looks awesome for a first little kit. It's
Yeah,
definitely isn't that real chintzy kind of toy kit. It's something that he'll be able to graduate up into a big boy kit through the years.
nope, no, not even. Here's the thing. He's been so used to playing my Roland kit that he was so excited. He ran up to the kit, he got on it, and he started playing it, and he's like, wait. And real quick, I'll explain. All it is a kick drum with three stands on top of it. One for a snare, one for a little small cymbal, one for like a little rack tom. And he's used to a hi-hat and a ride and two rack toms, the floor, the whole 9 yards with the Roland.
He's like, Dad, where's the rest of my drum set?
Right, exactly,
It's like, kid, you're two. Just
And
beat on it.
And my wife looks at me and she's like, oh man, he needs a bigger kit already. And he's looking at me like, yo, where's the hi-hats, Dad? Because that's when he's on the drum set, his favorite thing is to play between the hi-hat and the snare. Now he's really getting into using the floor tom and starting to kind of use both his hands at the same time to play around the kit. But he loves hitting the hi-hats and playing little grooves on the hi-hats. Whatever it looks like I'm doing, he just likes to try to do. And the cool part is even though it's not everything I think that he expects in a drum kit, he still likes to play with me now. So I'll play on the electronic kit, kind of face-to-face with him, and I'm just seeing him try to copycat me. And if I do like a little roll across the toms, he'll try to mimic it in some way, try to sweep from the snare to the floor tom. It's just it's cute as hell. But, that's kind of been part, in a nutshell, that's been the last whole week, maybe week and a half. Doubles and sweeps with Everett.
That's funny. That's great. That's great. The younger the better, and they're so, they're like little sponges just soaking up all that information. So,
Absolutely. No,
the younger the better.
Yeah, something funny is he's at that stage where he's really starting to understand what the words mean. So no meaning no and yes meaning yes was one thing, but now he understands like what milk is and eating and food, and if we tell him to do something, he kind of gets it. But the word drums, I could be anywhere in the house, anywhere, and I go, you want to play some drums? And he runs to the drum room right away to that drum set, dude.
That's great.
I mean, not that he's some genius kid, but it's for me, hearing that for the first time as a father, that's a drummer, it's the best thing in the world.
Absolutely. Another thing that Richard has worked on, fairly recently too, and you guys can check this out either by going to our Instagram or to Richard's personal Instagram. He posts them on there as well, but he's been doing a lot of odd time signature stuff. He posted a pretty good series of videos a few weeks ago, playing, and I think you were playing in 5, playing in 7.
Yep, it was some licks in 5, did some jams in 7, and then I think I did a couple weeks, actually, a week or two. I had so many videos of just playing some really cool fat grooves in 4, and they were all over the place. Yeah, you guys can check them out. I've posted quite a few to the Drummers I Like Instagram, which is at Drummers I Like, but you can check them out on my personal too. It's at Rich Ducat, RICHDUCAT. I have been posting a lot more, actually. I had a little hiccup. I essentially had a recording system that was with my MacBook. I would hook up Logic and run Superior Drummer through a MIDI cable on my Roland kit. and it was really sweet. But the system crashed, and I had to start using my desktop Mac and Logic, the new Logic, and I had no idea that the drum sets in the new version of Logic sound so awesome, and there's a huge what's the word? A huge buffet of kits. Let's just say that.
A smorgasbord of drum sets to choose from.
Yeah,
I like it.
it's like a golden corral of drum sets.
Well, I have a V drum kit here at the house as well. I need some pieces and parts for it at the moment, but it's it's functional. I use it, and I use Superior Drummer also. Through PreSonus's Studio One, and I've always been very happy with Superior Drummer, but when there's not quite as many different kits to pick from, but there is a lot of flexibility in how you can make them sound either by EQing or changing the tones of the drums through Superior Drummer. So I've been happy with it.
It's smart to probably note too that I had the base model version of Superior Drummer 2. So if you were to buy Superior Drummer 2, you get like a download online, but then you get this disc pack of like 40 gigs worth of drum sets. I don't have that, so there is a huge selection of amazing kits and much more than the base of Logic has to offer. But I just don't have that. That's all. If I had that big upgrade kit, man, I'd probably be using Superior all the time, just based off of what I have with my base model. I was so impressed, just because the cymbal selection alone blows everyone else away.
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's one thing in the electronic drum world that they've made leaps and bounds, but you can still that's the only weak point I'd say is sometimes the cymbal sounds. You can kind of still really tell. I mean, with other things they've come so far, it's hard to even tell if it's a real drum or not. It's amazing. So especially when you've seen kind of where it was at one point, where somebody'd fire up an electronic kit and you knew it a mile away. One thing I think that's kind of that Roland stands apart from, and there's a few other companies that are doing it, but they really paved the way with the mesh head, where you really get that drum feel. I played electronic kits kind of before the advent of the Rolands, the V drums at least, and it just sounded like you were playing a bunch of practice pads, or felt like you were playing a bunch of practice pads.
Yeah, that's true. The mesh
does
does feel good.
Absolutely. A good friend of mine, the first time I ever had a chance to sit on V drums, a good friend of mine who was in Drumline, and he had a beautiful Yamaha kit, had cymbals, jam blocks, he had timbales to the left. He had all sorts of stuff on his acoustic kit. And then right face to face with his acoustic kit was this, and this was just shortly after the V drums came out, and it was the 2 rack tom, 2 floor tom, like 3 or 4 cymbal pads, the hi-hats, the whole 9 yards. And I remember the first time I went over there and I played these things, I was just like, wow, it's just unbelievable. But now it's kind of the standard. People want mesh heads more than anything. I know Yamaha does. I know they've done some mesh heads now, and you've got companies like Pintech. They were always making their mesh heads after the Rolands really became popular. So like I say, they're not the only place to get it, but the feel on those, I don't think they can be beat. I love my Rolands. I paid a pretty penny when I bought them used years ago, but and right now I need to replace a few of the cymbal pads myself, but I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I mean, and not to take away from my complaints about price, they are very they are very durable. I mean,
they are.
I've had them for maybe almost 2 years now, and I got a 2-year-old who's been around them since I got them, and he beats them, hits all over them. I smash the hell out of him. He's pulling on the lines, the cables, the cymbals, sticking stuff, and to this day, man, they've held up. I even lived with some buddies in the West Hollywood area for a while that when they played drums, dude, he would just beat the hell out of my cymbals, like freaking.
Oh, you're just watching him just cringe, and I know that feeling. I know
like
that feeling.
That kid who wants to be Travis Barker, just beating the hell out of my drums.
Just full like arm swings at your cymbals, and you just every time they hit, you're just like, oh. It hurts,
It
hurts
like
to
you're
watch.
getting punched. It feels like you're getting punched for every hit. And they stood up. They stood the test of time. So
that's
are
what
quality.
sets them apart too. Yeah.
They are quality.
They're very durable too. I mean, the mesh heads, the cymbal pads were just the cheaper PD80s that I have on my older V drum kit, and just the practice pad looking. They don't look like the cymbals like some of the ones nowadays.
Right.
But all of my mesh heads, I mean, I have not had a single hiccup with any of them. And then when the heads get a little dirty just from dust settling on them and from playing them, I just unthread them and I throw them in the dishwasher.
Whoa, that's not a bad
Yeah,
idea.
yeah, no, it cleans them up. They look like brand new.
And
So
they fit right back on.
yeah, yeah, absolutely,
Wow, you're gonna
no
have
problem.
to. We're gonna have
Yeah,
to
but I
make.
put them in the top rack. I put them in the top rack. Don't put them down low.
You need to make. We need
But
to make a little video on that.
it's. I mean, I forget. I stumbled across it somewhere. I read somebody that said, "Yeah, just take them off and throw them in the dishwasher." I said, "The dishwasher? It sounds terrible." And they said, a few other people said I did the same thing. It turned out great. So I was kind of cleaning them up one day, and I said, "Heck with it. Let me pull them off and throw them in there and see what happens." And they came out looking like brand
Snap.
new. So yeah,
Be on the lookout for Kevin's clean up video.
yeah. If I can't show you drum technique, at least I'll show you how to clean your drums, right?
Yeah, right. That's funny. That's funny, man. Well, I think we're getting pretty close to wrapping this up. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to jump into before we close out of here.
I think that just about does it. This was a great opportunity to just kind of talk about who we were and kind of introduce ourselves. We've had a couple podcasts now, and all these people are probably thinking, "Who the heck is Rich and Kevin?"
Right,
So now,
exactly.
now you know a little bit more about us, and it was good to talk about the trip to Tampa, and we have a few other live show trips that we're planning. So be on the lookout for anything new in that department, and we'll definitely be kind of letting you guys know when those things are happening, so that way you can kind of look out for them when they do.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. And so everyone knows we are very active on social media. We're posting every day to Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're on Facebook, it's facebook.com/drummers I like. If you're on Instagram, it's at drummers I like. And if you're on Twitter, it's also at drummers I like. Also, check out our YouTube. It's youtube.com/drummers I like. We have tons of videos. Matt Gartzka, Joey Baca, Matt Halpern, Sam Applebaum, tons of other stuff. Just go check it on out. Some awesome instructional videos from Kevin, our buddy Adam Marco on there doing some jams. It's just a lot of great stuff to see. And we're really excited about it. We're adding a lot every day. We're adding more every day. And I think there's a lot of stuff coming that's going to be sweet. So I think that's about it. Anything else, Kevin?
No, that's about it for me. Just thanks everybody for listening once again, and getting through podcast number 3, and be on the lookout next week. We're gonna have another interview and another drummer lined up for you, so we'll get that out to you next Wednesday, and we look forward to it, and we hope that you've had a good time hearing a little bit more about us.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Remember, at Drummers I Like, hashtag Drummers I Like. Tag your videos. We will repost them. We're starting to see a lot more activity on that side, and we'd love to see even more. We love our users and our followers, and all we want to do is promote and praise them. So remember to tag us, and until next time, see you later.
Ciao.